I'm Jacob.
And I'm Jaden.
And this is The State of Things. And welcome back to another episode of The State of Things. Jaden, how you doing?
I am doing great. It's actually been a very short week. Actually, only today is the day that I've been on campus. It's Friday. And it's the same for you. Where were we? Where were we all week, Jacob?
Yeah, so you, myself, our Director of Government Affairs, Victoria Filippi, and LAS Senator Madeleine Becker all went out to D.C. this last Sunday and spent, the better part of this week out there at the Big 12 on the Hill Conference. That's an annual conference that we have with the other the student governments from the other Big 12 institutions. We have two conferences with them every year. We have a conference in the fall where we come together and we talk about, what's happening in our student governments and, and then set some shared priorities that we have for the year. And then this spring, we take those priorities and we take them to Capitol Hill. And we advocate for, whatever priorities we set in the fall and basically send a unified message to Congress about what we're experiencing on our campuses and how they can work to improve that situation.
And so this past week, we took those two unified messages and kind of broke it up into two sections of the conference. The first part, the first couple days, is when all 84 students from across the 14 different schools of the Big 12 that were out there, we met with about 60 different offices of different Congress people in the House and the Senate about one, college affordability, and two, mental health resources for students. And so in the affordability space, we really talked about continued support for the Pell Grant and really making sure that that's a wonderful opportunity for students that qualify to make college affordable, especially to great institutions like Iowa State, if I have to say. And the other part was just the structuring and continued support of subsidized and unsubsidized loans, Those are also great resources for students that provide them another avenue rather than private loans that may be a little higher in interest, just really making sure that college, even at state schools, is affordable for everyone. And then in the mental health realm of things, it's really about making sure the federal government is providing avenues for universities to have access to mental resources to give to students. And so one of the big things there was really advocating for guidance from the Department of Education to provide recommendations to universities on how to stay at the forefront of providing these essential mental health resources so we can give the support we need to students.
Yeah, and that second half of the conference, just as important is, in that first half, a lot of the offices that we're meeting with are members who sit on the Education Committee or the Education Appropriations Subcommittees, in the House and the Senate on Capitol Hill. But the second half is, all the schools meeting with the representatives from our states and, talking to the people who represent, Texas, Florida, Ohio, making sure that we're hitting across the board and the people who have the closest connections to our universities. And so, obviously, as, Iowa State University, we met with the full Iowa congressional delegation. So, we met with Senator Grassley and Senator Ernst. We also met with Congresswoman Hinson, who represents Northeast Iowa, Congresswoman Miller-Meeks, who represents Southeast Iowa, Congressman Nunn, who represents Southwest Iowa, and then Congressman Randy Feenstra, who represents Northwest Iowa, which is also the district that Iowa State is located in. And we had a lot of really productive conversations with them about, the affordability and mental health pieces that we took, as a conference to all of Congress. But we also met with them to talk about, some other things, such as the recent changes to FAFSA, especially how that's going to affect farm families and families with small businesses. In the last year or so, there have been some proposed changes to that program that will basically make it so families with farms and small businesses will probably get less financial support going into the future as a result of these new calculations. And so, we expressed a lot of concerns about how that's going to affect farm families. And there's a lot of support amongst our members and a lot of movement already on making sure that we kind of correct that flaw in the new FAFSA system before it rolls out. So really positive conversations. I think there was a lot of buy-in on the things that we were bringing to the table. And, I think especially when we're meeting with the Iowa delegation, there's always a little bit of camaraderie and appreciation. Not all the members obviously represent Iowa State in their district or have Iowa State in their district, but all of them have really close ties with the university and come here often. And so really great conversations. They always love to see the students there. And so yeah, it was a great week out in DC. I felt like we made a lot of progress on some of these issues. You know, everything moves pretty slow in DC, so progress is progress still. And we're pretty happy with how everything turned out.
Yeah, amongst the 6 representatives for the state of Iowa, these are not controversial issues. It's not, if it's going to happen, it's when and how. And so as Representative Marionette Miller-Meeks said, they are all over it. And that was the same message we got from all 6 members of our delegation. And so I think really productive and making sure, these are things that we come back every year and talk about, but it's good to have students in DC talking about them, keeping them at the forefront of their mind because, students, we're the next generation. We're going to be taking their spots in the next 20 years. And so it's good to have great support for students now.
That's right. And, we just got back from DC and, we're having these conversations with these big national leaders. But today on the podcast, we're actually zooming in a little bit, and we'll be talking with Mayor John Haila, who's an Iowa State alum, about what's going on in the city and the relationship between Iowa State University and the City of Ames. So look forward to that conversation after the break.
Welcome back, everybody, to another producer bit here on The State of Things. As always, you are joined by your fabulous producers, Ethan, Maddie, and myself. Guys, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. We're going along through the semester. We got a decent chunk out of it, which has been really nice. I'm doing good. How about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just kind of holding on until spring break. We got 2 weeks left. Do you guys have any plans or anything for that?
It's next week. When
Next-
this
yeah.
comes, I was gonna say when this comes
even
out,
better.
it'll be like tomorrow and then like spring break.
Oh, man,
So yeah,
awesome.
I'm
Wow.
super excited for that. To be honest with you, I get to go down in Florida to see my parents. So
Sick.
I'm so excited for that. To be honest with you, what are you doing for spring break?
I'm just going back home, spending time with my brother and my parents. Have a couple interviews that are scheduled over break, so looking for that full-time job after I graduate in May. But yeah, so Maddie, what about you?
Oh, yeah. Me and my friends are taking kind of our first conglomerate trip together since most of us are seniors. We're going down to Miami.
Nice.
I've never been to Miami, but I'm pretty excited. But
Florida gang.
Florida gang. Yeah. But everybody I've talked to
This
about
is
it is
this is
going
coming
down there, so.
after your Orlando trip.
Yeah,
just a
wait a
week before,
second.
right?
I'm still rocking a little bit of the sunburn from Lando, but
Not a tan. It's a sunburn. It
was a sunburn.
It was a sunburn.
awful.
So is
A
this
day
like
at
a-
Epcot will do that to you.
Is this like a Florida addiction at this point? Is that what-
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I would have
Okay.
probably rather gone.
She's just going down at the end of March and 3 times in April. So it's not quite
Oh,
there,
yeah,
but
no.
she has had the trips planned out for sure.
I'm just an honorary Floridian at this point.
Floridian.
Yes,
Floridian.
correct.
There we go.
That's the name of a hotel down there that we had to look at about like the experiential
Oh,
design, the Grand Floridian.
nice.
Yeah.
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 Or Floridian if you want to.
Floridian.
Wow, my favorite music artist.
Well, speaking of music artists, Song of the Week. We've been doing this last couple of weeks
Yeah.
now, and I think this is something that should be a staple thing at this point. But Song of the Weeks going around. Who wants to jump on this first?
Sure. I'll start it off again. I'm still on my Catfish and the Bottlemen hype. Like it's still top of my repeats. Like,
100%.
so good. But my current, I think this week I've listened to a lot of the band Camino.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
I was
band
gonna say
Cami-
somebody
oh.
knows who that is.
Camino. Oh.
So good. They've got,
Oh.
I think I've got like 2 songs on repeat from them this week, and it is Something to Hold On To, I think is one of the songs. And then they've got another song. Their top played song on Spotify is called Daphne Blue. Great song, but
love
they've
Daphne
got an acoustic version. Obsessed. I don't know why I like it more than the original, but I really do. And it's like if you look at your Spotify like on repeat playlist, it's the top right now. So good.
Wow.
That's my Rex. Band Camino, Band Camino. I don't know how to say their name, but it's fire.
They're good. I really enjoy them. I have a friend who listens to them, and I started listening to them a little bit.
What's your
back.
favorite Band Camino song?
I don't really have. It's been a while. I want to re-listen. I really want to re-listen to them because I know I like their sound. So
Well, let me jump on the band Camino train here real fast because did you all know that they released a new single?
Yeah, I saw it the other day when I actually listened to it at midnight when it came out, and I was in Florida.
Yeah. So
great.
it's one of my songs that I have on repeat right now. Told You So. Oh, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like I was obsessed with Daphne Blue. I listened to their self-titled album and was working through that, and then I found Daphne Blue, and then like you like showed me like a playlist and put that song on there, and I was like,
I did.
No way you listen to Daphne Blue. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
literally just a week before that I just found this song, and I was like, this is so good.
I think the first Band Camino song I found was like a year ago, and it was Roses. Great song
Roses
if
is
you haven't
so
heard it. Oh, it was like my spring hype jam for a little while. So it's such a good song.
Yeah. Well, Ethan,
Yeah.
what about you? What's your
Yeah, I don't get me wrong. Love the band. I always thought it was Band Camino.
I
It
thought
might
so
be.
too, but I also don't know.
I don't know. Love them. They're great. I'm gonna butcher her last name. Lizzie McAlpine.
Oh,
Like, huge fan of hers. And I can't remember the song that I first listened to, but I loved it, as you can tell. But she's really blowing up on TikTok right now. Ceilings, it's a really good
saw that.
song.
Yeah.
It's an actually pretty easy song to play on guitar, so I'm gonna try to start learning that, which is really cool.
Wow.
Hey.
So hopefully, I don't know. I can't hit those high notes, but it's playing guitar is fun. So
Yeah.
that, and then also very specific players by Coy Leray, but the Genius did like a studio or like a live version of I don't even, it wasn't like a live, it was some sort of version of it that I just really really enjoy. It's just like I just really like it, and so it's a jam. It's a
go.
funky jam.
I have to give it a listen. Sounds like it's a funky jam.
Yeah.
Was that the one you played for me?
Yeah, that was the
earlier
one I
this week?
played. Yeah, earlier this week I played it
Yeah.
for you, and so I like it. I like
Yeah,
it a lot.
it's really good. For me, I have been obsessed with the band Almost Monday for some time, and they're so good. They released a new single, like, I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, but it's called Only Wanna Dance. And it's, honestly, I don't know what I was expecting out of a song that was titled that. And I was like, it's gonna be like, it's gonna be poppy, it's gonna be like hitty and stuff. And, it's gonna be something that I can like, vibe out to. But then like, I listened to it and I was like, first off, this isn't like, I've listened to Almost Monday for quite some time now, like when they first started out. I did not expect that sound. I don't know how to explain it, but like, you know how you listen to artists and you've come to like expect a certain sound? When I listened to it, I was like, it feels like it's Almost Monday, yet at the same time it doesn't. And it's just like a weird feeling to have, right? You know how there's like some artists that come out with things you're like, I never would have expected that from them, yet I can, like, it sounds like them at the same time. Like that's the vibe that I'm getting off of Only Wanna Dance with Almost Monday. The first song I listened to by them was Parking Lot View, which is, fantastic. Love that song. My brother actually introduced me to that song. Shout out to him. But yeah, so he introduced me to Almost Monday, so I have him to thank for that. But now I've become obsessed, and Only Wanna Dance is probably my #1 song at the moment.
Sweet.
I'm gonna have to relate to you really quick on the sound changing. So the Head and the Heart, Rivers and Roads. That was like the first song of theirs, and like my dad sang it. It's just like kind of like it's one of my favorite songs. It's great. It's fantastic. But their new sounding stuff, I really like it. Don't get me wrong, but that's another thing I feel like they've kind of changed to be more modern. It's got some traces of pop or some like, which again I still really like. But I can relate to you when you say the band is the same, but then you like listen to the song and you're like, this does not sound the same. And so, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But
Well, speaking of change, yet consistency, student government has elections that are coming up. By the time this episode goes out, we'll already be done with elections come Tuesday, Wednesday, March 7th and 8th. However, for students that are interested, there's a lot of other positions within student government outside of just the senator positions and president and vice president of things they can get involved in. So could we spend just a couple of minutes just kind
for
of talking
sure, for sure
about that? Yeah.
I mean, you and I we're directors. We are on the executive cabinet. So we both started as senators, but this year we both moved up to director position. So I'm the director of marketing, which is kind of deals with our social medias. We have a newsletter, and we I'm doing some other projects and things like that, and obviously this is one of PR's projects, public relations projects, is the podcast, and so. Apply for cabinet. There's a bunch of different. You've got your director of affordability, obviously your chief of staff, which maintains all of cabinet. Like you got finance director, you've got DEI director. You've got a lot of different areas that you can like be specific and kind of make and do projects in that specific area, which is really cool. I know. I mean, Maddie, you were also the past director of marketing.
I was
so it's not unfamiliar. Like it's a really good opportunity, especially if maybe you're not looking for the legislative like parley pro. Like you're just like but you still want to be involved with student government. You have director. You can be on part of the cabinet.
Yeah, and it's super easy to get involved there too, because once the new slate is brought in post-elections, which will be happening after this episode goes out, or before, pardon me, you'll be able to, there should be an email that goes out inviting you to apply for positions in the cabinet, and then you can go in, and usually what you'll do is you'll set up an interview with the president, vice president, I think is how that works, and then you will meet with the previous holder of the role, and they will give you a transition document that has all the information about the role and what you're supposed to do and what your expectations are and important things pertaining to your committee that you're joining. You can also do things like joining as an at-large if you don't want to apply directly for high positions in cabinet. That's what I am now because I needed to not be director of marketing anymore. But yeah, so you can do at-large positions, which are very low-key involvement, but frankly, you can be like involved as much as you want to. It's just a lot less of a responsibility to take on if you want to be involved, but not have to run the entire show.
And those at-larges are for the numerous committees that you actually heard about last episode. So the 8 committees that student government has, plus I think there are some other ones that are more not student government related, but there are plenty of at-large seats on every committee, so feel free to reach out. I think they also send out a link around the same, maybe I think it's once they're in office, back probably late April, maybe early May, that it'll be like, hey, are you interested in joining student government? That's where you can be like, yeah, I want to be an at-large to DEI. I want to sit on the SI committee and help plan events for student government.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening to this and going like, well, I really don't want to be involved in the legislation side of things or really not with the project-based things, do I have something for you? The Supreme Court here at Student Government is the place to be. If you get signed on as a Supreme Court justice, apply for the position, you will have an interview with the president, and the president will then nominate you for the particular position. And then when you get signed on, it is a full-time position. So you are able to serve during the rest of your time here at Iowa State. As a time here as a student. So for all of these positions that we have as a senator and as an at-large and cabinet member, you have to apply every single year to be a part of it. But when you are a Supreme Court justice, you can serve as long as you are here at Iowa State.
No need for re-election. That sounds so nice. You can just, as soon as you're in, you're in. That's great. I would love that. Might be my next move.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I know that Maddie and I are graduating, so unfortunately we won't get the opportunity. But for those of you that are sticking around and want to be a Supreme Court justice, this is for you. But anything else we want to talk about while we're here?
I mean, just good luck. I think midterms are coming up, or they have. They're around this time, I think.
I'm
not
100%.
Yeah, that's what I say.
My friends.
So
by the time this episode goes out, I think most people will either be almost done or just about done with their midterms. But good luck nonetheless.
Yes.
I hope you get the grades you're hoping for.
Yeah.
But with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that, we'll throw it back to Jacob and Jaden for their interview with Mayor Haila.
And with us this evening is a special guest off the Iowa State campus, but not out of the Iowa State community, receiving his Bachelor of Arts degree in architecture, and now the twice-elected City of Ames mayor, Mayor John Haila. Mayor Haila, how are you this evening?
Great. Thanks for having me, and it's just a pleasure to be chatting with you, and it's always an honor to interact with ISU student government.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on campus for sure.
Well, yeah, it's wonderful to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making the time to come talk to us. The relationship with the city not only between the university, but between students in the city, is so key. Obviously, we kind of, we share the same space for, 9 months of the year. There's a lot of students in this town who are, become those temporary residents. And so it's really important to kind of keep that conversation. So we're really happy to have you here. And, one thing that, I just want to bring up real quick as we're getting started here is something that you and I have in common, which is our time spent on the Cyride Board of Trustees.
That's right.
Our,
That's correct. Yeah.
Our long-term members or listeners of the podcast will know I have a soft spot in my heart for Cyride.
Yes.
And so just want to acknowledge your former membership. You're a former president of the Cyride Board.
That's correct. Yeah, several years. I think it was 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just wanted to, Mayor of Ames is pretty cool. President of the Cyride Board, in my mind.
I would agree.
Thanks for that.
Frankly, I think that Cyride is one of the best kept secrets, in Ames. I mean, people like it and respect it, but I will never forget our conversation with a consultant that we hired to come in to help us optimize. That's what kind of generated Cyride, 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Was we asked him or them that we want to make sure that we were compared to peer transit agencies around the country. And they just put their hand up and said, wait a minute, you don't understand. And I was like, okay, what's going on? They can't do that. And he said, you are the standard that we compare every other transit system that serves college communities because it is so well run and it's just basically the gold standard. And so we can't come in and tell you that we're going to find additional things that you're not doing, correctly. And so there was definitely tweaks that came up, but I think it just shows that from the foundation and the partnership between Iowa State, student government, administration, the City of Ames, it is really an amazing partnership, first of all. And that's where I really was just so encouraged and energized to see how well Iowa State and the city, work together. And I've always, we half the students. I mean, the students make up half of our population, and it's so important to be serving them and letting them know that they're valued. And I know that we'll probably talk about it a little later on, but just our engagement through student government and the City of Ames, just so important. And but yeah, Cyride was just a great introduction to that. And I tell a story I share is that it always amazed me because on one side of the table was Warren Madden, former Vice President of Business and Finance, and then our city manager Steve Shanker, and they have indefinite terms as long as they're in that position. That position is always reserved because of the importance of how that relationship works. And they would start going at it, and they would be arguing, and Steve be on the city side, and Warren be on the Iowa State side, and they would disagree, and then they would come to a conclusion. The meeting would adjourn, and then they both get up, and Steve put his arm around Warren and says, "Hey, I got to talk about something else about you. What's going on?" So you could see the respect, but the fact is that Warren always knew who he was representing, and Steve knew who he was representing, but it was for the common good for the community. And so that just really impressed me. I had heard about it before, but that just epitomized the town and gown relationship that exists at Cyride. And I believe that the community is better for it. And I think it's 93 or 94% of the riders are students. And we tried to optimize it through 2.0, but I think it needs a little more, tweaking. But we want to serve as many people as we can with the system.
Yeah, I think Cyride's one of the great examples of, how the university and the city do cooperate and work together and find that common ground. So just want to bring up that little fun fact from your resume.
Yeah,
Man, the gold standard in transportation right here in Ames, Iowa.
We do.
Yeah.
And that was from a nationwide, a consultant who studies transit systems nationwide, and that's part of they just come back to Cyride as being to compare it to and the efficiency and optimization.
Just another thing that sets Iowa State and the Ames community apart from other
Absolutely.
college cities. But
Agreed.
so you said you were on the the president of the SciRide Board of Trustees. How long ago was that?
I served from, let's see, got elected, I say it was 17, 16, from 2013
Okay.
to 2017. And then when I was elected mayor in 2017, I had to resign that position because I couldn't hold both positions. And so I took over in office in January 1 of 2018.
So then was being president of the SciRide Board of Trustees your first kind of civic engagement experience, and that's what encouraged you to run for mayor of Ames? Or what's that story there?
Excellent question. It was, I would say it's probably the last piece to the puzzle. When I owned and operated an architecture and engineering firm, started over in Boone, moved it to Ames in 2009. We intentionally moved into Campus Town because they wanted to be engaged with potentially Campus Town redevelopment, but also just the energy and enthusiasm. And also we wanted to attract potential interns to come work for us so close to campus, like Kingland. That's why Kingland is across the street from campus. And so became president, helped revitalize Campus Town Action Association, served on the Ames Chamber of Commerce board for 6 years, Habitat for Humanity, Ames Foundation. There were several other, but that just really wanted to be fully engaged in the community, participating in what was going on. And then through my engagement at Campus Town Action Association, Mayor Campbell, my predecessor, called and asked, hey, since you're engaged with Campus Town students, we have an opening, on transit. Would you be interested in doing it? And so I thought about it, talked to my wife about it, and I said, sure, I'd love to. I will say this, is that there are 5 different sources of revenue that come in to fund the $13 million budget. I'm a person that really understands numbers. That took some understanding of all the different programs and the way funding comes in and the formulas from the federal, the state, Iowa State. I mean, they do an amazing job of tracking all of that. So, but yeah, it was really, and through the process of being on Campus Town Action Association, appeared before City Council a number of times. Matthew Goodman was on council at that time. He's also active in Campus Town Action Association. So, as president of the CAA, I appeared. We talked about trying to get some funding for a part-time and then ultimately a full-time director. So I was really impressed with the commitment of the City Council to what was going on in Campus Town and just the camaraderie, but also the vision, thinking, and then also during side ride time appeared before council. And I've always wanted to give back to the community, wanted to provide service to something. I don't think that's appropriate for people to always be takers. You want to give back and be a contributor like you guys are, to student government. It takes time, it takes effort. But but then serving on SciRide, just seeing the incredible collaborative nature. So I was actually contemplating running for city council, and a couple people essentially sat me down, talked to me, and said, hey, would you consider? I knew that, I had heard that Mayor Campbell was considering not running again for a 4th term. She had served for 3 terms, and so in conversation with her, she said, yeah, she was going to be done at the end of this year, or at the end of 2017. So had some good conversations with her, and so when said I would never announce before she resigned or announced that she was not going to run again, out of respect for her, first of all, and secondly is, who's this guy, wanting to run, for mayor against, someone who's served on city council and or as mayor for 28 years. And she's been a good mentor, and so has Ted Tedesco, the mayor before her, have been good mentors, to me. So, and actually it was a much better fit for me as being an owner and operator of an architecture engineering firm for 30 years. As a as a CEO, I loved representing people. Collaborative nature, overseeing things, was probably a better fit than being on council. had facilitated well over 2,000 meetings, probably closer to 2,500 or 3,000 meetings in my entire career. And so I was used to working with councils and board of supervisors and school boards. And I mean, it was just a good fit in terms of public speaking, engagement, collaboration, working and listening to individuals. So it's been, I mean, no one ever foresaw COVID, coming at us. That was certainly a very challenging time. But boy, talk about the collaboration between all the different entities in Ames, from Iowa State to, Department of Public Service. I joked that every Thursday night I had a whole bunch of BFFs. One of them was Chief Newton, another one was Aaron Baldwin. We had people from Public Health, Chamber of Commerce, county board supervisors, mayors, and there's times we had meetings for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just talking about what was going on and what they were doing, and that really forged some significant bonds between people, and only further cemented our relationship with Iowa State. And I think it was already good, but I think it was even better after that.
Well, wow, what a success story right there. Especially shout out to SciRide for giving you a lot of those things. And you said 2,500 meetings. You had your parliamentary procedure probably down pat.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I went as a consultant to meet with these individuals. I facilitated my portion of the meeting, but it's still the same thing. You got to go ahead and go with an agenda. You got to talk about certain topics. You got to be basically on point, get things accomplished. And so it's been, I won't say it was necessarily, simple and slide into it. It takes you a while to get acclimated. But it's been very rewarding. And I can't say enough positive things about our city staff. We have a great city council. We have a great community. And I tell people, I don't expect everyone to agree with one another, but I expect people to be civil and gracious and listen and dialogue. No monologues, dialogue. And I think that has been true for over 5 years since I've been in office.
Yeah, that's fantastic. As someone who, has been engaged, with city politics or, city business for a better part of a decade, and now these last 5 years as mayor, a lot of our listeners are students, and so, they might not be as engaged with city politics and kind of the city government structure. So what would you say is kind of the main role of the mayor in your
Sure.
mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have what they call a weak mayor form of government, which means is that the mayor does not vote on anything. The city council is a policy-making body. They pass ordinances, which are city laws, and then resolutions, which are primarily approving contracts, spending money. It's probably similar in student government. The only thing I can vote on would be a motion to break a tie on a motion. And because we have 6 council members, that could happen. Typically, most votes are 5-1 or 6-0. It's pretty uncommon that we have a tie. And I think I've only broken a tie once, I think, and that was, and I am actually proud of it, and that is, it was to go forward with a workshop to consider passing a massage therapy ordinance in the city, because I was very concerned about Dr. Blitzo's, discussion in terms of the abuse of that and human trafficking that does go on there. And so we did go ahead and have the workshop, and as a result of the workshop, we did get the ordinance drafted and passed. And so I think something, and I believe once we went through the workshop, council said, okay, this we got to do. Right. We just need to get over that hump. So anyway, so facilitating, running the meeting is probably the most visible, the council meetings. Being a spokesperson to anything from Kiwanis. Next Friday I'm speaking to a care facility, group of individuals, going down to the legislature representing. And again, it's like, as an architect and engineer, I was representing my clients. Well, my clients are 60-some thousand residents now, and I'm gone down there representing, them. I am the chief executive officer, so that means that I have the authority. When council approves contracts, I am the one that signs on a dotted line. So and there's times where I have a lot of things to sign, sometimes not a lot of things to sign. I think it's humbly, I think people see it as being the community leader, also the face of the community. And so during COVID, I tried to be out front, with some, videos and communication. I do serve as a representative on the Story County Emergency Management Association board, which oversees, with East Palestine, happening recently, you realize, well, it's really important to have good planning, and we have lots of really good planning. It doesn't prevent something, but how do you respond to something?
Right.
And then people come and they want to talk to, someone at the city as representative. I'll go ahead and do that. And I speak, we have an agreement with council that I primarily speak for, the council when there's issues that need to be talked about. And then also I'll review the agenda that the staff provides the agenda for the upcoming council meetings. On rare occasions, I might ask for something to be either postponed or removed, from the agenda, but that's very, very rare that it happens. But I do have that authority. And I have the authority to call special council meetings. If council wants to do that, they actually have to make a motion. It has to be voted on in a council meeting to call a special meeting. I can call one on the spot if I need to. I mean, we have to give 24 hours notice, but if I felt it was unnecessary next Monday, I could call it.
Right.
And post it. So
from that long list of duties and then, being able to represent all 60,000 residents of Ames, what do you think is your favorite part of the job? You obviously re-ran and was re-elected to the position, so there was something calling you back.
sure, a couple of things. One is I'm a relationship-driven person. So the relationships that developed with everyone, seriously, from student government with Iowa State University, businesses, residents. Those are all something that energizes me. I thoroughly enjoy, doing that. I enjoy representing individuals. I felt, and there's things that still want to see accomplished in the community, and while it's not me alone, I do think someone needs to be an advocate. One has been certainly mental health is a big concern that I personally have, and I know council shares that as well too, but I believe I'm positioned to help champion that. So that, that's probably one of the main drivers. And the other thing is COVID just really, I call it the lost 2 years. And so here we were, 2018, spent that year really kind of getting acclimated. We were going through rental ordinances. 2019, the legislature scrambled that. We were dealing with short-term rentals, the influx of, Airbnbs. And we had residents that were complaining about those. That's why we were responding to it. That got undone. And then all of a sudden COVID hit. And then we spent all that time really kind of got us not off track, but we had to really focus on that for, a year and a half. And so now finally in 2022, kind of getting back into the flow of things. So, but there's I want to see some projects get through. And also I believe that my skills in terms of everything from being a numbers person, and also a linear thinker, and really there's other opportunities, and also I'm honored to serve as the president of the Iowa League of Cities this year. We have there's 960 some cities in the state. We have between 700 and 800 members, and so representing them and running the board this year also was an opportunity that was placed in front of me. So, but there's a lot of, we have a tremendous community. There's no place else in the nation that I'd rather be than in Ames. And it's not just because of Iowa State, but, I think we are primed for a lot of potential, great things, going on in the community.
Yeah. So, we've been talking a lot about the relationship between the city and the university and, how, unique it is to this community. What do you think makes that relationship work? So
I know what it makes work, and that is it's the commitment of leadership to want to make things work. Absent that, it's just not going to happen. And I count Dr. Winterstein as not only a partner, but as a friend. Student government, we've really sought to build, relationships with those, entities. We're trying to bring in students from Dr. Alenka Pompkin, from Community Regional Planning, is helping do some work from that standpoint. But we have quarterly meetings with Dr. Winterstein, our city manager, me, and then also the business and finance vice president now, Sean Norman. But we talk about what's going on, how things might happen, what's coming up, keep one another, abreast of things. And RAGBRAI is a great example. I mean, it affects both of us, the university and the city, and so consequently, there has to be, cooperation. Our two law enforcement departments work extremely closely together, Chief Newton and Chief Huff. Talk with tremendous respect for one another, and that's really important. And, the issue is that, Iowa State's like a city inside of a city, because City of Ames has no jurisdiction on campus. When the university wants to build a new building, they don't come to the City of Ames to pull a building permit. Their approval comes through the state fire marshal's office. There's nothing the city has that they can say. So if Sci-Town going on out there, the city has no say in terms of what type of buildings are being built there, how that property is being used. Now, we do have some connections with stormwater, sewer, and regular water. And there's also some traffic implications as well too. But so there has to be cooperation, and we do have a great town and gown relationship. I think that's ebbed and flowed, over the years. I've heard some times where it hasn't been so strong. But I would say if Dr. Winterstein wasn't really committed to that, then I think that it wouldn't be as strong of a relationship. If I wasn't, if we had egos or were carrying, trying to accomplish something and be at odds, it wouldn't work. And it's not, what I'm just thrilled about is that it's Iowa State, the city, the school district, and the County Board of Supervisors, not to mention the business community. We really do have, I think, the ultimate connections. We don't always agree, but I do believe we all want the best for the city.
Yeah, I think there's kind of an acknowledgement amongst all the parties that when we can all succeed or grow faster together if we work together. And so when we tackle things as a united front, I think we get more done.
Correct, and we have a symbiotic relationship. Iowa State needs Ames to be successful, but Ames needs Iowa State to be successful. If one falters, and so it's not necessarily trying to be, well, it's all about me, but the point is we understand that that's really important, and Story County needs Ames to be to be successful, which also relies on Iowa State, so.
So I was just going to say the exact same thing. Is when Iowa State improves something, the City of Ames grows. But when the City of Ames grows, Iowa State grows. So it's very symbiotic, like you said. And with so many different projects that happen between both of them, I think one of them that we talk about just about at every one of our joint city council meetings, and the administrators are always talking about, is Cyclone Welcome Weekend. With it being the very first inaugural Cyclone Welcome Weekend this past fall. I think it was a great success on both sides. We talk about it a lot with our administrator meetings, but from the city point of view, what did you guys, partake in? How did you help grow the event? And then from the city point of view, how did it get pulled off?
Well, interesting you asked the question because we just had a joint meeting on Tuesday talking about it for this coming year, and did a praise and polish or plus delta, and I think a lot of things did go well. The city council did pass an ordinance that raised or allowed for immediate towing of vehicles that were parked on the wrong side of the street, and we don't. I want to be clear, we don't want to tow any vehicles, and we don't want to discourage anybody from celebrating and enjoying coming back to school. That's not the issue. But we have many streets that are pretty narrow, and when you have vehicles on both sides, sometimes you can't get a fire truck or an ambulance, through between that area. And we want to be clear, they will get through, but you may not like what your car looks like when you're done. And your insurance company will not like it either. So one is just life safety, public safety is a big issue. Two is it just makes it more difficult. I mean, you can block streets, and we have had residents who live in, year-round residents who have complained before. So we improve, and we've gone out proactively. We spent a lot of money. The police spent a lot of money and time putting up signs saying, hey, there's no parking on this side of the street. Please don't park here. It'll be towed. Our chief of police thought that they'd be towing at least 100 or 120 cars. They only towed 30. So it really did work, and it really helped because it allows, for visibility. And two is increased the large party. And I'm not saying you can't have 30 or 40 people over, for a party. But when you have groups of 100, 200, 300 people of your best friends, showing up, many of whom you don't know.
I'd say best friends in air quotes.
That's right, exactly. The concern is we just don't want to have, and this is what I think really got attention at a student government meeting when both Chief Newton and Chief Huff said, we are concerned that we're getting perilously close to VISHA 2.0. That is riots and behavior, property damage, and potentially personal injury. And I think that we knew it was developing, and we know it's a phenomenon that occurs not just in Ames, it occurs in other college towns. So how can people party responsibly and safely so no one gets injured, can enjoy their time together, but also not to the point where you have people who have enjoyed adult beverages a little bit maybe too much and can't control, their behavior. That's each person's choice. It's just more or less we don't want anyone to get hurt and property damage occur. So there was only 3 parties that were cited, and police made it very clear. They went several times and issued warnings, and we actually, for the first time ever, according to the police department, had people calling saying, hey, can you come and help break this party up? We don't want to get cited, but we can't get people to leave.
Right.
And honestly, about half the people that come are from out of town. It's not Ames residents, and so we understand that people may come and you don't want them to be there. So we're trying to, and council also donated $5,000 last year to the breakfast. We're going to also go to council again and ask for a contribution. We want to support what's going on campus as well. And so I can't say enough. Another great relationship between Iowa State. Dr. Winterstein and I started meeting with landlords January of 2022 to talk about this issue. We realized you can't legislate your way out of this. You can't. So actually, kudos to some of the staff at Iowa State. They came up with the idea. Let's just rebrand this as Cyclone Welcome Weekend versus trying to squelch it. And so I think it's. We knew it was it was a quick rollout last year, so we're gonna try and get it out again. And the other thing is, it's not just Cyclone Welcome Weekend, but rumor has it Iowa's coming to town to play football, and we're gonna beat them this year for sure again. And so that's another one where we're gonna probably have the ordinance will be in effect in terms of parking on this different sides of the street. And some people just say, hey, I'll just pay the $40 ticket. Well, it's going to be towing, not just a ticket,
right.
And again, we're trying to post signs and let people know we just don't want your money. We're not doing this as a fundraiser. We just want to make sure people are safe and can enjoy, a great time, a great environment.
No, I think that's something that's spoken very clearly is the City of Ames is not out to get you. It's for the greater good and safety of everyone, and that's all you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, and it's just, and the other thing is, we have 30-some thousand residents, some who live in those neighborhoods, and we did have a number of people come and complain for the first time in my tenure, not this past September, but September prior to that, September of 21. and they were very upset because of, let's be honest, public urination, property damage, behavior that's really not, becoming. And they have, some people had, kids at home and stuff, and it's just they were concerned about that. So, anyway, the point is, I think it was better this year. Hopefully, it'll be even better, going forward. And we'd like to think that it's primarily those who are visiting from, out of town. But it's all about safe, fun, enjoyable time together, celebrating, but within reason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously that was a huge, undertaking this last summer to prepare for that, because it was, we kind of came up with it late in the spring, and then we're trying
Right.
to pull everything together. And so obviously that was kind of big of undertaking between the city and the university. But obviously there's a lot of things happening in Ames.
Yes.
All over the place. There's developments happening everywhere, and new programs and initiatives. So, if you had to name, one or two major developments that you think students should be aware of that are going in this happening with the city, what would you say they are?
Well, from a city perspective, we have a new exciting downtown plaza that's being built right now, right across the street from City Hall. It's designed to be a year-round gathering spot. Now, we understand students may not be that familiar. I mean, I was on campus, almost 50 years ago. Frankly, I didn't have a car, first of all, and Cyride wasn't even in existence. But, I stayed primarily in campus, or, we used to call it Dogtown, campus town, area. But there are so many cool things going on in the downtown area. I talked about the Octagon Art Festival that happens towards the end of September. I mean, we have 100 to 200 different artists that just have all this really cool stuff going on. We closed Main Street, closed Douglas. Other events that we're trying to go downtown, farmers market. So the plaza is another anchor, part of that, and it's going to have water features in the summer, and in the wintertime it's going to have a ice skating ribbon. It's not going to be a ice skating rink, because we don't want to encourage hockey from going on. Mm-hmm. But places for kids, for families to come down and ice skate, around there, and then we'll have a skate rental there also. And then also a place for food trucks, to come down there and anchor, and a small, it's not going to replace Bandshell, but a small little performing stage also. So that's one. Another one is the Link project, which is on Lincoln Way, and I call it the nuclear wasteland right now. Between Clark and Kellogg, where everything's just kind of been scraped off. So that. Hopefully we have that, the planning, or not the planning, but the agreement finalized between the developer and the city. The developer is doing all that work, but we have to have an agreement in terms of incentives. So that would include everything from young professional housing. It'll have a hotel. It'll have a outdoor plaza, retail, commercial space. I have a son who's a serial entrepreneur, and he just said, he works here in town, and they have an office, downtown. He said, this would be awesome for us to grow our business in, in that kind of environment. I think that'll be a real catalyst. There's a lot of cool things going on in the downtown area, and then a new indoor aquatic center that across from a DOT, which we hope to see ground broken a year from now. And obviously, site towns are really exciting piece. It's not anything the city's directly involved with, but that'll be a huge catalyst. And we're continuing to invest over $1 million a year in bike trails, and our widening pavement to have bike-friendly streets. And along Iowa Creek, where we all developed that, we got another piece going in. We just awarded contracts to connect to South 4th, and we're going to go down towards Skunk River, and then hopefully, once we get the property rights or access allowed, connect from Hunziker Youth Sports Complex all the way up to 13th Street, and have this bike trail goes along Skunk River and Iowa Creek. So pretty cool in terms of just outdoor recreation. So that's just some of the cool things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, I may be a little biased as a member of the Parks and Rec Commission,
Yeah.
but I really do think Ames Parks and Trails are one of the hidden gems of the community that really just makes it such a great place to live.
What's your favorite park?
I am a big fan of Ada Hayden
Yep.
up north. I love to go
Crown
up there,
Jewel.
especially
Crown
in the
Jewel.
summer,
Yep.
and just go up there and read right next to the water. Yeah, I love it up there.
Yeah, and we just put in it was a joint public-private partnership with a new accessible boat, kayak launch. And so someone who is mobility impaired can get into a kayak without having to try and easily maneuver into it. And from what I understand it is not just used by mobility impaired, but by everyone that gets kayaking. They just love using it. So that's got $80,000 investment, but city paid 40, and private fundraising paid for 40. So we have people that really love our park system. It's great.
I am very excited to come back to Ames when, of course, my kids someday are going to Iowa State to enjoy all the amenities for myself that you just spoke
Well, you're
about.
not leaving though. That's just
Right, I forgot about
correction. Newsflash. We're going to find a place for you to live. How's that sound?
that. I am staying in the state of Iowa, so no worries
All
on
right.
that. But.
All right.
So obviously, a whole bunch of amazing things that the City of Ames is undertaking, but there's always fallbacks as well. Not everything is cherry picking. So I suppose, what are some challenges that you foresee the city facing in the near future as well?
Well, this is Lake Wobegon. Nothing is wrong here. So
All right, well, that sums up that one.
there you go. Yeah. No, well, first of all, mental health, and it's true on campus. It's true off campus. Even if one person takes their life, it's one too many. But we have got to get not only. We have a lot of resources to help people who are struggling with it. It's on campus. My goodness, student health has amazing programs and people, and so does DPS. So do we, and there's lots of different organizations. But I'm a person that wants to get to the root of the problem. What is causing the issue, and can we correct that? So that's one issue. We're working on a climate action plan. On one hand, we want to certainly be good, environmental stewards. We already are doing a lot of positive things in the community from an environmental standpoint. I think we've actually been leading the way for decades. But the cost is just absolutely mind-numbing in terms of what it would, do. So there's going to be a partnership between different entities on that one. There are some external factors, and frankly, and it has to do with legislation at the state level. And so we're trying to develop a partnership with them and be positive in nature, but it's a moving target, and so that's something that we're going to have to navigate. I think creating a sense of belonging, that people feel like they really do belong, regardless of where they're from. We have over 100 nationalities. Our second largest population group in Ames are Asian, and then then we have Black, and then we have Latino, and so how do we help them feel like they really are? They feel, not we think. They feel a part of the community, and welcomed. And so those are just some. And I understand. I absolutely loved going to Iowa State as a student, and I think it's a unique time of life where you're on your own. You're being challenged, you're learning, you're meeting new people. Some of our best friends are from college. You make lifelong friends, here, and there's a proud tie to it. But we want students to feel like they're part of the community, and that's a challenge. And we understand that. We get that. There's not this expectation or demand that you have to be doing that, but we would like to see students enjoy Ada Hayden, enjoy our downtown, not because we're wanting your money. It's just there's more to Ames than just the university or just campus town area. Now with Cyride and people owning cars, that's a little easier. But I think that sometimes people just aren't aware of what's offered, and that's on us in terms of trying to get that information out. Years ago it used to be ISU Print Daily, the Des Moines Register, 3 channels on TV, well 4. Iowa Public, IPT TV, radio, And that was about it. I mean, it's a completely different, situation. How do we reach out to our constituents? I mean, paper's dying, sadly. I say it sadly because I love reading, I subscribe to 2 papers and, try and keep up with what's that way. But, I mean, as soon as you think you got a handle on it, then they're using something else, and so I think that just getting the information out, and one of the challenges that I do see too is I think that we're pretty humble as a city, as Iowans. Honestly, I think we don't brag. And I think one of the best kept secrets in Iowa are the cities. I mean, they're the building block for economic development. They're the building block of community. But people, I hate to say it, are really becoming so myopic and really engaged on social media and in their own almost a different world that I think it's hard to break into that as well. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that sometimes, like anything, taken to an extreme can really be a detriment. And so how do we reach out, communicate, reach people? And sometimes it seems like the attention span is pretty short. We're used to getting 200, 40 characters or whatever, or 256. You want 2 or 3 sentences, but you can't explain complex issues in a short period of time.
Right.
And then the last thing is civility. Is just making sure that I think that we're having a speaker come in early April on talking about civility and conversation and engagement. We're gonna self-destruct if we can't engage in conversation. I had a meeting with someone this afternoon. I just said I appreciate so much coming in because I know we're not going to agree on some things, but we can have a dialogue here and seek to understand one another. We can have eye contact. We can actually respect one another's opinion, and see if we can try and find some kind of a middle ground or common ground. And so my urge to everyone is to say, think the best of other people. Think, and if you have an issue, ask about it. Don't jump. I think we're so quick to jump to conclusions, or assign motives to people that may not be, true. And so I recently challenged the NAACP when they had their Freedom Fund banquet here a few weeks ago. I couldn't make it. I gave a video presentation. I challenged them to think, for the next year, that no one would sit at pre-assigned tables. You had to sit at tables of people you didn't know, essentially. People that were, whites would be interacting with blacks and with Asians, and because it's easy to kind of get together, but you haven't seen people for a while, so I get it. Well, unbeknownst to me, the MC said, "Okay, you heard the mayor say," and she made everybody stand up, and they had to do it that night.
Oh, there you go.
And apparently it generated so much conversation that for like 10, 15 minutes they couldn't even get order. People were just talking, but that's community, and that's really so. If that was happening on campus, and people were getting to know people they didn't know, and respecting, I think when you get to know someone, you realize, we have a lot of common themes. May not agree on A or B or C. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just we just don't agree, but that's okay. That's part of America. We have the privilege of doing that, and so I know you guys, espouse that and support that. And I would think probably most people, do, but we just got to break this polarization and lack of civility, or we'll be at each other's throats, and that would be a very, very sad day for all of us. So our council and people who come to council meetings are awesome. I mean, they may not agree, but we are respectful and try and understand. And the hard part is when someone says, "Well, you didn't listen to me." Well, I heard what you said, but the decision was made may not have been what you wanted, but we did hear what you said, but we have to make a decision what's best for the entire community, not just one particular entity. And so having that, and you guys do the same thing in student government. I mean, you have to make a decision on what's best for the entire student body, and someone may not agree with it, but I think people understand all the issues. Oh, I see that perspective, and so we're trying to. But sadly, trust is being lost between elected officials and those that they represent. Not intentionally, I don't think, but that all of a sudden causes distrust, and then all of a sudden things can break down. So anyway, but this is not a unique time. Mm-hmm. It's happened before in history, but we have to be committed to it, and it starts. That was my point to the NAACP. It starts with each one of us, and student government, Iowa State administration. You can't. There's no way you can legislate or affect change in people's hearts.
Right.
There's only so much you can do, but you can certainly model that, and then at that point, it's up to the individual. So I think if each person decides, I'm going to make a difference, boy, we could get somewhere really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And, I think, you just talked about a lot of different challenges that this community is facing. And I think, towards the end, you were talking a lot about how there has to be a shared response here. And the responsibility kind of falls on every member of the community, right. Not just, leaders in this community. And so, I think if, we'll wrap up with this question, if students want to engage with that process and be a part of the change to, respond to climate change, respond to those mental health challenges, respond to, a lack of civility in the community, and try and build that kind of community trust going forward, how would they get involved with the city to work on those kinds of things?
Yeah, we have a new ex officio, Tabitha Etta, right? Eaton, thank you. Sorry, I remember her first name. and then Rachel Junk is a grad student, and she's on council. So first of all, there's pipeline there, but they certainly can email. I think we need to hear from students. Certainly, that's part of the purpose of the ex officio. But also, while we come to visit with student government twice a year, is to hear from that. We have boards and commissions. I know you thankfully have been willing to serve on several of those for quite some time. When I first took office, I tried to not have people appointed in positions that they couldn't fill a full 3-year, term. There's a few that had 1-year terms. I've changed that philosophy. If a student applies and they want to get on a board or commission, and let's say they're a junior, I'm not going to disqualify them. I'll put them on a board or a commission. Knowing that maybe they're going to resign, midterm, okay, that's fine. We'll find somebody else. But that's a great opportunity. That really, I think, is most of the city council members were on a board or a commission, and it really gets you involved with the community and gives you the opportunity. Participating in our community conversations, we have one next Tuesday night on substance abuse. It's going to be at the Ames Public Library in the Farwell T. Brown Community Center. It's open. It's free. It starts at 6:30, goes to 8:30. We have social media posts are going out on that. That gives you a chance to hear about that. And then the first Tuesday night in April, I think it's April 7th, we have a former state legislator who has been the director of the Robert T. and Billy Ray Center down at the Drake campus and leadership. And he's really, in my opinion, an expert in civility. And he consults with legislatures all around the country and also with entities. And, the Character Counts program, there's 6 pillars of character.
I remember that from grade school.
There you go. Well, that actually is owned 100% worldwide by the Ray Center.
Oh,
they
wow.
actually were the big promoter of that, and then it kind of went worldwide, and then they actually have the rights to that. So that's a big, that's part of building, civility. So coming to that and listening, and actually we just got off the phone, or off the Zoom. Phone's ubiquitous anymore. With Scott Radiker, who's the director. Phenomenal speaker. But anyway, it's going to be interactive. It's the first time we've had an interactive presentation. So we're actually throughout the whole night going to be actually practicing and having things that we can take away in terms of how to start, how do you listen to, how do you engage with. But he was on a webinar here, it was in December, and I'm telling you, he spoke for like 45 minutes. I could not take notes fast enough. He had so many great observations and issues, and he too is concerned about what he is seeing and how we need to right the ship. But so that's individual participation from that standpoint. But my cell phone number is on the website, cityofames.org. Just go to mayor and council, and you can, or just Google, or put my name in the search box, and I got my emails there. And actually, every council member's email is there, as well as our phone numbers. Even though I'm much older and removed from this generation, from your generation, I do text. I don't do Facebook, and that's a conscious decision, only because I want the City of Ames' Facebook page to speak for the community, and the other thing is that I just feel I want to talk to people and engage with people versus do something over social media. And it's also, I'm old. So I'm just not used to it, but people have said, well, you'd be better, you reach more people. It's probably true, but I'd rather do it through other mediums.
Yeah, well, I think that was the last of our questions. I definitely encourage any of the students listening, if you're interested in getting involved with the cities, go to those community conversations, apply for boards and commissions. There's so much more happening in the city than you probably think. I know that when even I just joined the Parks and Rec Commission initially, just the amount of stuff happening in that space alone kind of blew my mind. Once you're in, it kind of all makes sense. How many things have to be tended to, but you don't really think about it when you're just in a park. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved and be a part of the community. But
And the time commitment isn't huge either, right?
No.
Talk about how much time you required.
yeah, I mean, it's one meeting a month. We meet for maybe hour and a half, and just give feedback to the city staff on some of the policies they're pursuing, and maybe approve a couple waivers. But just a great way to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mayor Haila, for being on the State of Things. And really, for the past 5 years of your leadership in the City of Ames, I'm very excited to see where you steer this city into the future. So
Well, thank you.
thank you so much for this conversation.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Well, Jacob, I think that was a wonderful conversation with our twice elected and Iowa State alumni, City of Ames Mayor Haila. I think he brought some unique perspectives from the city-Iowa State relationship to this podcast and in this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I really take away from that conversation is just how interwoven the Iowa State and Ames community are. And I think it's something, a lot of us acknowledge and know. Like, obviously, students make up a large portion of the population here in the city of Ames. But I think it's just really clear from the way that the mayor was talking about the different challenges that we're facing and, the direction that the city is going, that the university is very much a constant piece of that conversation, and the student body is as well. And I think that unique relationship that we have, that town and gown, relationship that he was talking about, is so important. And I think it's really fantastic that it works so well here.
One of my favorite aspects of this conversation were all of the challenges that he presented that the city and Iowa State is facing, but they weren't just broad spectrum challenges. They were very in-depth, like self-reflective challenges of the city. Really, civility, making sure that we are being environmentally friendly with the sustainability plan he was talking about, with making sure that all of our diverse community members are really feeling a part of the greater Ames community. I just think these are some issues and challenges that many cities in Iowa aren't thinking about. And the fact that the City of Ames, their mindset is in those spaces, it sets us apart to make this truly one of the greatest communities in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, and the mayor was talking about how he wants students to be involved in tackling those challenges and how we have to come together. And that isn't just talk. He really wants students to engage. I mentioned in our conversation that I've been on a couple different city boards and commissions for the last 3 years, and I can tell our listeners with complete confidence that the city really wants students in all of those spaces, whether we're talking about the climate action plan, we're talking about Cyclone Welcome Weekend, or, we're talking about parks. They want student feedback because we are such a large portion of this community. Ames, as we know it, would not exist without the student body, and vice versa. Iowa State would not be the same campus it is right now without the City of Ames. And so, that relationship is so special. And so if you are a student out there and you're thinking about wanting to get more involved in your community, there's a lot of ways to do it, but joining, a city commission or just getting involved with the initiatives going on in the city is A, really easy, and B, a really impactful way that you can do it. And I would fully encourage people to engage in that process.
But that's all from Jacob and I this week on the state of things. We really want to thank all of you in the Iowa State community and really worldwide that listen to this podcast in the conversations that we get to have.
And that has been The State of Things.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of The State of Things, an ISU Student Government podcast original. This episode was hosted by Jacob Ludwig and Jaden Ahlrichs, produced by Madeline Willits, our executive producer, Sundar Shivraj, our production manager, and Ethan Matthews, our technical director, with special thanks to the staff and facilities of the Student Innovation Center Digital Media Suite. We are always looking to promote student organizations and campus events. So if you have an organization or event that you would like us to promote, please email us at stateofthings@iastate.edu.
The Iowa State University Student Government was created in 1958 to provide service to, advocacy for, and empowerment of students at Iowa State. To get involved or share your ideas for change, please email stugov@iastate.edu. That's stugov@iastate.edu. Thank you, and roll clones.